Alright guys, so right now we are going to embark on the journey of designing Tech website, and we have here, if you look at right now in my VS Code, right, and what I have here is a folder that I opened specifically for my project. So like I told you guys, make sure you guys have a project folder, right? So you have here called Tech, and I have a folder called my assets. So if you take a look at it, my asset, inside my assets, I have my images folder, I have my library, and inside this my library I have other stuff inside, but especially this is what I wanted to see, the boost, no, not the bootstrap, the bugs icons, right? So I have my box icons folder here, which I'm going to use my fonts and every other thing that I need inside my box icons, right? All right, so that is that. Then moving forward, I have my pages, right? So in my pages, I have my about HTML, contact HTML, enroll.html, services.html, right? I have all that there. Then for the styles, I have reset the CSS style, the CSS bible, the CSS. Now, why I separated it like this is so that we don't fill in one CSS folder with one CSS file with everything, right? Because sometimes the variables are always very much, so we don't fill in everything. So we just separate the contents of different stuff, right? So that is why we have, and that is why I separated this file. So first of all, we'll just start with the before, and we'll just start with the variables. Okay, before we start with the variables, let's start with the reset. First of all, before you start designing your application, like I told you, you must make sure you reset everything, right? Make sure you reset everything. So what we're going to do is, for all, we'll just say for all using our universal selector, right? So for all and for before, it is all for before. So for all for before, right? And also all for after, right? So what are you trying to say? That everything should take a what, a box sizing of what, border box. So we are going to say padding should be 0. All right, so padding should be 0, then margin should be 0 as well, then box sizing should be border box, right? All right, so this is the first step of doing this. All right, so what next are we going to reset? So we can then come here, right, to our body. So we'll just go with body, right? Body, then we give a line height of 5. I told you guys I love going with 5, sorry. So line height should be 1.5, sorry, not 5. Line height should be 1.5. Font family. Remember we are going with the system UI, right? System UI. All right, that's it. All right, then the next one we have probably we will leave our background color for variables, right? So that's that. And right now, the next thing we're going to set is our HTML. So we will just say HTML and body, right? So for both HTML and the body should take a height of 100%, right? A height of 100%. All right, so the next default things we are going to be removing. Remember, we are resetting our CSS, right? So the next default thing we are going to be, because we know that normally lists always have or come with styles and bullets, right? So we are just going to define that right here instead of doing that every list style. So we just go here and say for UL and OL, probably DL, if we are going to be making use of that. So we are going to say list style should be what? All right, so you know what list style should be, right? So list style should be none. All right, list style should be none. All right, so next we have our anchor tag, right? So we are resetting everything in our CSS. So we just say for every A, we will give it a text decoration of none, right? Give it a text decoration of none. We'll give it a color of, okay, we can leave the color because we define that in our variable as well. So let's leave the color. So for our buttons as well, button input field text area and select. So for our buttons, or just a button input text area, right? Text area and select. So instead of arranging it this way, we can just break it down simply, something like this. All right. So all this should take some parameters, which we say font should be what? Inherit, right? The font inherit, border none. We don't want any border, right? Sorry, a mistake. Border should be none. All right, so we don't want any border. We say outline should be none by default, right? So we are creating a default style for them. So we say background should be none. All right, then we say color should inherit to, right? The color should be inherited to. Alright, so we can then move ahead. So remember we are defining default styles, right? So then come here and say, alright, so we say for button, right? So for button, it should be cursor pointer, right? So for button should be cursor pointer. Alright, so I think we'll stop here for now. Right? I'm going to stop here for now on our exercise. So if you have to add anything to this CSS, we'll still come back and do that, right? If you have to add anything here, we'll come back and do that. Alright, so first of all, let's go to our index.html and start creating this website. Alright, so first of all, like I told you, either you type HTML5, right, to get your boilerplate code or template, right, or you simply use shift plus exclamation mark to give you the same outcome, right? So we are going to come here first of all and change this to what we call text tag, right? Change this to text tag, and we're going to link our CSS. So just a link. Alright, so you have our styles.css. Remember, we're going to styles, then you link our reset to the CSS first of all to take away the false, right? And then the next CSS we are going to be linking would be our variable.css, right? And the next CSS we are going to be linking will be our styles.css. Alright, so we'll go with styles.css. Alright, so we are done linking, but we still have one more thing to link. We're still going to link our box icon icons, right? So that will be visiting assets, and inside the assets we visit library, and inside the library we visit box icons, and inside the box icons we visit box icons and CSS, right? And we are going for the box icon minified CSS, right? So that's what we are making use of. Alright, so we are still on the setup process. So right now, let me go ahead and run this on the browser. Let's see how it goes. So I'm just going to use Lifesaver and open with Lifesaver. Alright, I'm going to open with Lifesaver. So we'll be starting with the header, and from there we can now migrate. Right, so visit our Chrome. It should come up by now. Alright, so this is the example of what we'll be doing, working with this why we design. Alright, so let me try again. I don't know why it didn't open suddenly. So let me try again and let's wait for it. Alright, so well, if it doesn't work that way, there's still another way of doing it, right? It's also work. Probably my worked finally. Alright, so it worked. So I'm going to close the extra tab and let's see which one loads first, right? Let's see which one loads first. Right, I think I'll just get rid of one and let's see how that goes. Alright, so back here we have this. So let's go ahead and create our header. Right, so what do? We type header. Okay, thank God they did this time. Then I'll say nav. Alright, so inside my header I have a nav. Right now, if you look at the structure, let's visit the website. I'll probably visit this, right? So let's visit. Alright, so if you look at the design, we have, first of all, you see we have a full header, right? So in this header we have a logo here, and we have list here, and we have a button like item here which says enroll, right? So and after that we have our hero section. So what are you seeing here? First of all, when you look at this header, you see that we have a div, that a container, right? Let's call it container for now, a header, right? We have a full header which is taking the full width from here to here, which is 100%, and then we have inside this header we have two other elements which are a div here with a logo, and we have a URL list here, right? So but before you have this div and a logo, there's also something that is holding from this endpoint to this endpoint, which is our nav, right? So we have our nav, we have our header, and inside our nav we have these two elements, right? And this one consists of a div with a logo, and right, this one consists of a URL element with a list of items, or an anchor tag with anchor tag or navigation, right? So this is what we have here, right? So the next one we have is our header. So let's go ahead and create our, we have our hero, right? So let's go ahead and create our header right the way, right? So we'll just proceed back to our VS Code. And now what do? Remember, we have an header that has a nav, right? And inside this nav we have two elements. So what are the two elements? The first one is a div, right? We have a div which holds a logo, right? An image logo. So we are just going to fetch this image from our assets. Remember, our image folder is in our assets. Fetch this logo. So we'll say this is text and logo, right? So we'll go with this one, text and logo. Then we go to our alt and type text and right logo for readability. Type text and logo, and we come here and give this one a class of logo, right? It is a class of logo, and below our div we are just going to go with our UL element, right? And we can decide to give it a class, called nav links, navigation link, which is short for navigation link. So we can go with this or this, whichever way. So then inside our nav link, for me, I would prefer going with an anchor tag first to wrap around my div element and with the hash first. For my home, our route to be our default route, is our hash. So I'll just duplicate this over and over and over again, right? So let's go back to that design and see what we have. We have the home, about, ignite 100, courses, blockchain academy, and contact us, right? So let's go back to our VS code. Home, after home, what do we have next? About, right? Then after about, what do we have next? We have the ignite course, ignite 100, right? Ignite 100. All right, so after the ignite 100, what do we have? I think we have courses. All right, I don't really know, but I'll check it out. Then after the home, I think we have blockchain academy, right? All right, so after the blockchain academy, I think that's when we have our enroll button, right? So let's go ahead and check it out. Okay, let's go to the website. It's supposed to refresh automatically. All right, so no worries, this is what we have, right? So you can see what we have right here. Okay, you can see what we have right there. All right, so if you remember, you can see that we set probably default size in our CSS. We set .css, right? So we set default size in our reset.css. So that is why it's taking this form already. So don't be surprised about the shape or the form of what you are seeing, right? So let's move to our okay. But for basic beginners, I need to uncomment this first, right? Let me take this out. So let's work directly with our styles.css for basic beginners. I might put it on later, but let's just comment that one now. So we see the effect of both of them. I'm going to open with another lifesaver. Let's see how it is. All right, so we see how what we have now. Let's come back here and let's start styling our header, right? Okay, but before we do, you can decide to leave it this way, right? You can decide to leave it this way. There's no need of adding an li inside because it's already, I think it's already good this way, right? There's no need of adding an li inside within. All right, so let's get to work. Now we are going, first of all, we are going to target our header. So we are going to call our global CSS right here. And since we uncommented the reset.css, first of all, the first thing you need to do is remove your padding, default padding, and margin, right? I hope you get that. So remove your default padding, 0, margin so should be 0, right? Then while your box sizing should be border box, right? All right, so I think this is basic for now, so let's move ahead. All right, the next thing we are going to define is probably our variables if we are to make use of only the CSS file, but most of the times I love keeping it this way, right? Because some variables are very long and we need to make use of them properly or globally sometimes. So we just come here and say hash root. So we are going to define our variables here, right? So the first variable we need to go with, let's say background color, right? Let's say background color. So let's say background color. Let's define a variable for background color, right? So we have a variable for background color, and we're just going to give it a background color of this particular value. Let's see how it goes. So let's go to RGBA and see how that goes. So it's a 0 0% and 95% and 0.2. So let's see how that goes and what value. All right, so let's see how that goes. All right, so next on the list variable, we're defining let's say we're defining primary color. Then okay, so what should be our primary color? Primary color could be black, something like that. You might change it later, but let's stick to something similar to black. All right, so you can say secondary color. That is working in variables now, right? Secondary color So for now, our secondary color can be green. Right, secondary color can be green. So let's see how that goes. Secondary color can be green. So let's see how that goes. Right. So if secondary color is green, you can just define something like a hash f3 f93 sorry 34d, right? So let's see what that gives to us. So I think that value is much. So this is 39. All right. So we have to have. All right. So next variable we have to define. Let's say our line height. We want the same line height, right? So you can just say line height, right? So line height you can give it 1.5. All right. So the next variable we have to define. We can say font family. Font family, right? So we know the font family we are going with, but I'll leave that empty for now. Next variable we have to define. Let's say we are defining font weight, a particular font weight. So we can say uh light font, light font weight. So we can just define different values of font. We can say 300, 300. You can see define light font weight, light font weight 2, probably 400, right? And you can see define you can now say bold, right? Bold font weight, and you can give it 400. No, bold font weight should be 700. All right. So I think that's that for font weight. What next can we define an variable just to make our code a little bit faster and reusable, right? So just to make things easier for us, we can also define box shadow right here. All right. So box shadow, you can go with 0 2px 0 as well, right? So we can go with that value, or probably let's make it 4px each instead of 2px. Let's make it 4px each, right? So you're just gonna come here and say RGBA. All right, color value 0 0 0 0 point, let's go with 0.1 for now. Later probably you can increase it. All right, so are there any other variables we need to align here or assign here, right? Okay, so as time goes on we might see some variables to assign. So for now that is basically what we have. Okay, also for here we can say for all, then all before, right, and all for after. So it should take the same parameters of default. So that is that. All right, so this is what we have here right now. Let's go ahead and preview our site. All right, so you can see now default padding and margin takes out every border from this child element. Now let me show you so you see how it goes. All right, so if I have peradventure I come to normally we are supposed to have our body, right? Supposed to have our body before any other thing else. So I can just come here and say HTML body, right? So I'm applying the styles to HTML and body, right? But I'll just keep that for now and come here. Let's face our header. So after our body, the next element we have is our header. Remember, you're supposed to be styling like it should descend, right? The code should descend, right? So if I give my header a background color, let's say I give my header a background color of blue. For now, let's see. I'm explaining something, right? So if I give my header color a background color of blue, my header, okay, it's supposed to reflect. All right, so let's check it out. I think this anyway, that's why I didn't reflect. Okay, let's take this out first for now. All right, so header background color blue. All right, so let's see. We have header background color blue. All right, so I think this is supposed to load. So now you see what we have, right? So let's go ahead and remove the padding and margin. So I'll just comment all this out at once. I want you to see something, right? So if we come back here, you see what we have. There's some space around here. If you look at this place, you see a space. You look at, you see space. Well, we don't want that, right? We want to remove all the default margin, and that is why we gave our padding of 0, margin 0, and box sizing should be border box. Remember, there's a difference between border box and content box model, right? All right, remember that. So for our header, we're just going to take out this background color for now. Okay, take out the background color for now from our header. So let's first style our body and HTML. So just say HTML body, and here we say for now our background color for our body, right? Remember, we are defining a background color for our body. So our background color will take our variable of background color, right? We'll have background color. All right, so this should take a while for background, but this is not what we want for our background, right? This is not what we want for our background color. Let's see how that goes. This is not what we want. This is giving us something like purple, and that is not what we want for our background color. So let's go with something like this instead. Right, let's see how that goes. Um, and it does good enough. Okay, let's check it out. Let's check it out. Let's check our background color out. Right, so we have something like this, and that is cool for now, right? If you take a look at, let's take a look at the image, at least it is close, right? So that's good for now. So let's come here, and first of all, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? Okay, I know here. Let me go with the default value of this for background color. Okay, let me go with this default value for our background color. All right. So looking at this, all right. So this is what we have, and I think that's pretty cool, right? So now let's give it a display of flex to make this one come here. So what will happen is that, after, like I told you, always make use of colors for development. So I'm just going to say background color, either colors or border, right? So I'm still going to give this a background color, and it should take a variable of background color, right? Yes. So I'm going to give this a width of 100%, right? Width of 100%. I'm going to give it a height of 10 viewport height, right? I'm also going to give it display of flex to make sure we align everything in the center, right? I'm going to give it align items. Align items should be center, right? Align item should be center. Also box shadow. So for box shadow, we'll be going with our variable, right? Remember we created a variable for box shadow, so we're going with our variable. So the box shadow should take box shadow, right? So we go with our variable for box shadow. All right, let's save and check it out. So this is what we got. Now right here you can see our box shadow has been applied successfully. So let's focus on the nav right now. Remember, if you come to our HTML, we have nav, we have header. So we are just done with header. Let's move to the nav, right? And in our nav we have two elements, so we should give it a display of flex, and justify content should be space between to make sure one is at the other end and the other one is at the other extreme, right? So what we are going to do here, we don't need to give it a class, we'll just go with our element selector, right? So let's proceed and come here, right? We'll go with our element selector. So we'll just declare our element selector nav, and we say, all right, so what we'll do here, we'll give it a width first. Let's define a particular width for it. So we can say it should have a width of 86%. Let's see how that goes, right? You have a width of 86%. It should have a height of 100%, meaning that it should take the parent height, which we just gave to our parent header, right? Then it should have a margin of auto. This is also to make sure it stayed right in the center. All right. Also, then what else? It should have a display of flex, like I said earlier. It should have a display of flex, right? So this display of flex is going to put two things apart, right, side by side. But now one to be at the extreme and the other one to be at the other extreme. So if we visit back, you'll see that it has been displayed, but we want one to stay here and why the text, the logo, stay here. So we'll go back to our VS Code. I'll give it a justify content, right, of, no, sorry, that's what a space between, right? Justify content of space between. Align item should be center as well. All right, align item should be center. All right, so that is that for that. So let's move on right now. So you see what we have, this is all here and this is all here, right? So after the nav, what do we have? After the nav, what do we have? Let's go and check. Remember I told you that it's supposed to style it. So after now, the first element we have is our logo, right? So we are just going to come here and say dot logo, right? So the logo, we are going to give it a width. We are going to give our logo a width of 20%, right? Give our logo a width of 20%. I'm going to give our logo a width of 20%, and right here I think 20% is okay for it. So let's go ahead and see how that goes. So let's check it out. All right, so we give our width of 10%, and let's go ahead and style our logo image. So say dot logo img. All right, so it should take a width of 50% of its parent width, right? So we'll give it a width of 50% of its parent width. So let's see how that goes. All right, so that is cool right there. So this is what we have right now, and we can see the outcome of what we are doing. So we are not going to remove this. Okay, let's go back. Remember, we are styling step by step. So the next one, what do we have? We have we are done with this one. So we have the nav link, right, which is our UL. So we gave it a class, but you can still go with the UL, right? So after that, we can say so there are different ways of doing this thing. You can still say, just for tracking process and any other stuff that you may know about or think about, you can just say nav dot logo, right? So this will also tell us that because this dot logo is inside the nav, it should apply all the basic styles. So you can still come here and say nav dot logo dot img, right, just to keep track of process. So let's check it out and see. So everything still remains the same. All right, so let's go back to our code base. All right, so the next thing we have here, if we come here, next thing we have is our nav link, right? So you can just say nav dot nav links, right? Nav dot nav links. They don't need to call your UL here because already I've given it a class of nav link, but probably you can still go with nav UL and it works just fine, right? So nav dot nav link, let's go ahead and give it a width. So we say give it a width of 60%, right, of our parent element. So give it a width of 60%, and we are going to give it a height as well. We should still take the parent height, which is 100% of the parent height, right? And also we are still going to give it a display of flex, just to make sure we put things apart. After doing the display of flex, we are still align items should be center, right? Align items should be center. Then after align items should be center, we are also going to justify content. So make sure, now remember I told you align items align stuff vertically, justify content aligns it horizontally. So we are just going to make sure everything is okay, right? So let's see how that goes. Right, let's see how that goes. But I think here it should be space between, right? So let's try it. We can just leave that empty for now and check it out. So now this is what we have. So it should be space between, right? So I'm just going to come here and give it, instead of center, we say space between, right? So if you say space between, let's go ahead and check the output of it. So this is what we have right here. Wow. So let's go ahead and check our image and see what we have. So this is not full screen, so it's okay. Let me go back to the web and see if this still works. Or probably this. Let's check it out. I don't think it will work anymore because our network is not on right now. So this is what we have, right? Okay. So what do we do next? What do we do next? Remember, we are styling our nav links, right? So what do we do next? All right. So let's see what we have here. Now we are supposed to take out this link, this underlying stuff right here, not making sense. So let's take it out. So I'll just cut this one and I'll come here and say nav links, right? Nav links. So what are we targeting? We are targeting the A, right? So we say A, our text decoration. Remember in our reset.css we added text decoration. Our text decoration should be none, right? It's supposed to be none, and text decoration should be none, isn't it? So let's also define a font size here right now. So we'll just say font size should be 16px, right? Font size should be 16px. So make sure your syntax is okay so you don't have any issues. So let's check that out. Right, so this is what we are having at the time, right? So now what do we want to do? It still shows, right? So let's go ahead and see what we can do about that. So we say text decoration should be none. I think that style will apply now. Probably it was loading. Okay, so it is all gone out. You can see it is not there again, right? So my VS Code was loading, that's why. All right, so the next thing we have, what do we need to do next? All right, so now if you look at the general website, look at this, you see we have a green button here, and that is what we want to achieve. And also we have an highlighted green here and also a green button here for the header, right? So that is what we have for the header. So let's go back here, and now we are going to use our end child to target this element, right? So I'm going to use an end child to target element. Now remember we have home, about, ignite, courses, blockchain, academia, and enroll. So now under these nav links we have children, right? I remember the children of these nav links are the anchor tags that we have. So what we are going to do is that we are going to use our end child and target the last element and the first element of these nav links, right? So that is what we are going to do right now. So let's go ahead and proceed to that. So we just come here and say nav.nav links, right? Nav links, I'll just go ahead and add an hyphen here, right? Nav links, and we say A, right? So we are targeting the last child from the nav link A. So we just say end child. So what's the last child? Let's go and count and see, so that in order to avoid mistakes. So I have 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, we have 6 here. I think that's supposed to be 7, but let me check this website. We have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, I think I'm there something. Contact us, right? So I'll just duplicate this, and this should be contact us, right? contact us. So now it is 7, and we'll go back here and put in the value of 7. Remember, we're targeting the 7 child, so we just come here and we style, give it a basic style. So let's go ahead and say background color. All right, background color. Now what should our background color be? It is taking a value of green, so we'll just come here and give it secondary color. So our background color right here should go with a variable of secondary color. So we're just going to say var secondary color, right? And that works just fine. So what does the variable do? It helps you define usable content and usable figures and elements. So you just change it once in your application instead of doing it over and over and over again, right? So that is that for your variables, right? So this is supposed to work, right? So if you save and go back and see, no, all right, so it worked, right? But we still need to style it here to the more. So we just come back here, and what do? We give it a padding, right? So you can say padding right here. Okay, padding right here should be 10 px. I was waiting for it to load, but it didn't, and 20 px. All right, so padding should be 20 px and 10 px, 20 px. That should be your padding. Then we're also going to use the border radius. Now if you look at it, what border radius do you think it should go with? Let's ask ourselves that question. Remember, we have to design by side, look at design once and know what to figure out. So what do we do right here? What do we do right here? What size do you think, what border radius do you think this element has? So I'm going to go ahead, visit our VS Code, and I think for me it will be 5 px, right? It will be 5 px. So what else do we need right here? What else do we need right here? So let's go ahead and check, and I think that will apply smoothly. All right, so we still need to change the color of the text, right? Still need to change the color of the text. So during our nav links a, we'll target the last nav link, or probably we have targeted it already, so we can just go with color, right? So color should take a variable of primary color. No, primary color is black. Background color is a little bit of white, but it will make sense to make it a background color right here. So I can come here and define another color, primary color, and I can call it white primary color, right? I can say white primary color, right? And I'll just change its value to something like something closer to white, either f1 f1 f1. Let's see if that works. All right, if that works. Supposed to. All right, so let's check it out on f2. It's supposed to work. All right, so let's go back here and give a variable of white primary color, right? So that should work as well. So let's wait for it to load, and boom, that's what you have. All right, so I think we have defined our font family, so our text is not looking okay. Let's see if we've done that. We didn't do that, right? So we're just gonna come in and I'll type font family, right? Font family, and we'll go with the system UI, right? We'll make it of the system UI. So why I did this is so that I won't stress myself. I'll just copy the whole line from here, cut it, and I'll take it to my custom variable so that it can be usable anywhere at all. Probably if we have any font style that we want to make reusable, our font family, this is the way to do it, right? So I'll come here and I'll call my variable here, right? And I'll give it font family, right? Font family. So let's see how that goes. Boom. All right, so you can see it's all cleared up. So what's the next step for that? So let's go down and continue from where we were. All right, so I think that's pretty much for the header. Okay, now if you look at it, we also have this home here. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. Right, let's go ahead and see what we can do. So what can we do to that? All right, for now this might not be a very good approach, but let's see how it goes. So you can just say .active, right? .active, and .active will give it a color of green, right? The fourth green that we made it of. So we'll just give it that color. Alright, so this might not really be a basic approach, or probably we can see target. No, it should be active, because when we are using making it of JavaScript, probably on routing, then I think it's supposed to take that parameter. So if you come here to our page, you see we have about contacts in row. So we are still going to add something else to this. We are going to add courses, right? Courses.html. So we're going to add courses.html, and we're going to add blockchain. Probably I think that's a page on its own. I'm going to add blockchain. We need to say blockchain academy right here. We just go blockchain HTML, right? So 1 2 3 I think something is still left behind. Okay, our home is always our home, right? So if you are making use of this site for a home page, then it should be our home, right? Because our home is taking a default value of hash, which is telling us, okay, current page, right? So what will happen is that let's link each page to one another. So we'll just come here and we'll copy this. I can either a copy part or copy relative, but we'll go with relative part. All right, then I'm just going to generate a boilerplate code for this, and right here I'll just have an h1 that says about, so that we know that we are in the about page, right? So you can also edit this to about, right? All right, so when we are done with that, we can then move to the next page. All right, so let's just do it for all at once, then before we link in it. So we come here and say h1. So this h1 should be for blockchain, right? Blockchain. So we are going for blockchain here, and this should be blockchain academy, right? So just to make sure that we know that, okay, we are in the blockchain route, so this will take the value of blockchain. All right, so the next one, we have our contact. Remember, you can shift +1 generate your template, or shift plus exclamation mark. So here we'll see our next one that says I think that's contact, right? Contact us. All right, so this should be contact page. All right, so that's that. Let's move on to courses. For now, this is the basic approach to routing. Probably we might change it later dynamically using JavaScript. So this is courses, right? Sorry. All right, so you have courses there, and you can just come in, have an h1 that says courses. All right, so next thing that we have here is our enroll. So we'll do the same for enroll. Click on it and convert it, give it a title called enroll, right? And we'll do the same here. Come have an h1 that says enroll, just to make sure we know that, okay, we are on this route. And then next one we have is our services. You're still going to do go ahead, do the same thing for services, right? So here we are going to have services, right? All right, and in our services we'll just have an h1. We'll have an h1, right? So this h1 will be taking value of services as well. All right, so it's not loading. Let's go by default. We are doing it, right? So say h1, and this should go with services. All right, so that is that. Now let's go to our index.html. We can just close all these ones. We don't need them. We don't need them. We don't need them. We don't need them. All right, so probably this and this. So we just go back to in this. So just go back to our index.html. Now, why I left my index.html here, because this is my root page, right? Index.html. So we are just gonna come here. This is just the header, right? Just the header. So let's start linking. So I'll just copy this about relative parts. Come here. Instead of the hash, I place it right here. Copy my blockchain. Come here. Go to blockchain and place it right there, right? So I'll do the same for all of them. Copy enroll. Come here. Go to enroll and place it right there. So I'm going to do the same for services. Copy my services relative part. Where is services? Do we have services here? About, let me check. I don't know if we have services right there. Okay, there's no services, so that was an illusion. All right, so I'm going to take it out, take services out. So this will be enroll contacts. Do we have contacts? All right, copy relative part and I'll play that right here. I think we have for courses. All right, get the relative part and place that right here. All right, so for the services, I'm just going to convert it from services to ignite. So I'm going to rename this file to ignite.html. All right, so before I change the context, let me see. Go ahead, copy and paste. All right, so this is what we have right now. So what do we do next? Let's set this to ignite instead of services. So this should be ignite, right? 100 probably, and this should also take ignite as title. So this is what we have. All right, so here we go. So right now you're in an HTML file, and let's see how that goes. So just go back to and now if you click on this, it should take us to our blockchain. Right, if you click on this, it should take us to our contact page. If you click on this, it should take us to courses page. Right, if you click on this, it should take us to about page. Right, and if you click on ignite, it should take us to ignite 100 page. Probably will not start it here. Then we have the home page. If you click on that page, it should take us to our current default home page. You can see the hash appear there. So this is telling us this is the default home page, right? Hash. So if you click on this, take it there. But once you click on your hash, taking it to the default home page. All right, so that is that. Now I think the color they made it off right here is black, right? I think it is black. So let's go back to our VS Code, go back to our styling, close this, open our style. Remember, style of CSS, and we can just come here and let's give it, I would like to give it a font weight as well. Let's see how that goes. Okay, I can go with font weight, and this can take a variable, right, of light font weight, right? Take a variable of light font weight. Remember, we defined our light font weight, all right? So, but that's too shallow. I don't like that, right? I don't like that, so I just comment it out. I don't like that. All right. So, what else do we need to do? Let's give it a color, right? Let's give it a color, and this color should take a variable of primary color, right? Primary color should take a variable of primary color. So we'll just come here, right here, and change our primary color to default black, right? So we go with black. I'll probably just say black at once. So that is that for it. So if we save and go back, let's see what we have. So I think it's still loading. All right, so it's still loading. All right, so this is what we have. This is what we have, but we didn't apply the active here. So let's just go back to our CSS. For now, this is not the right way because probably I didn't JavaScript to manipulate. You might highlight this based on where the page is at a particular time. But we'll just go ahead and target the first element, or probably we can still go with, yes, let's see if you can target the first element of our A. So you just come right here, you come right here. I think I'm going to copy this. I don't need to stress myself typing, copy paste it there, right? So we can take this out, change it to 1, and instead of primary white color, we just say primary or secondary color, right? So you should take a variable, a color should take a variable of secondary color, right? You don't need the background color, so we'll just delete this. You don't need the padding, we delete this. You don't need the border radius, so that should make it happen. All right, so I think it's loading. Just hold on a bit. Just hold on a bit. Boom. So we have that right here. Now there's also what we might add, that on hover state, each of these should have the same color, right? That is what we want. So we'll just come here and we'll still copy this. We'll still copy this, right? We'll copy this because I don't have the time to type. So we'll copy this and we'll say on hover, right? So on hover, but now you won't be using the 9 chart anymore because we want all of them decide to apply on all. So just say on hover should have this color, right? So let's go ahead and see how that goes over inside. Let's allow it to load and we'll see how that goes. All right, so it worked. You can see once we over on it, this is what we have. Now we talked about transitions as well, so we can apply transitions to our button. But if you over on the button, you see that the color actually changed to green. So we don't want that. We need to prevent that from happening, right? We need to prevent that from happening. So let's see how that goes. Let's see how that goes. All right, so as well, we can still see, we can still duplicate this probably for the 7th child this time around, and the 7th child. Okay, and the 7th child on hover, because we might see, we'll still come back to this. So let's specify it here as well. So on hover, we can give it a color of, instead of secondary color, we can give it a white primary color. Remember, white primary color on hover. So let's see if that works. All right, so it still remains the same, but these are all working accordingly, right? So it still remains the same, but the other ones are working accordingly. All right, so for the font weight that I uncommented here, let's go with light font weight too and see if that works. Light font weight too and see if that works. You can see everything here. So okay, see the reason why we don't have a terminating tag here. All right, so let's check it out and see if that works. All right, so that is that for the header. I think so. All right, so I think that's that for the header. You can go ahead and customize it the way you want, probably, but I think that is that for the header. All right, so let's move on to the hero section. Right, so let's dive right into it. But before you do that, it is free. Just subscribe and like this channel. All right, so it is totally free and it will be a lot of help to me. So it will be totally free. Just subscribe and like, and see you in the next video.